Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. The Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors, November the 5th, 2019. Roll call, please.
Leyland.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Velka.
Here.
White.
Here.
Little.
Here. Would you please join us in a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item 1 is agenda received, proposed, or amended.
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments for the agenda? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 2 is public comments. Anybody like to speak to board at this time, and it is not a agenda item. Okay. Moving on to item 3, years of service to employees with 20 or more years of service. Grant?
We have one award to give today. It's for 40 years of service for Ms. Kim Hewitt from the Auditor's Office. Congratulations, and thanks very much. They'd like to congratulate you too.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Craig.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you for that.
40 more.
Oh, I don't know about 40 more.
Kim, you want to say something?
It's just been a pleasure to work for Blackhawk County. I've seen it grow from paper to very automated and a very lean operation. And it's a good place to work. I'm proud to be here.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, that's only one, Grant?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then. Moving on to item 4, claims and payments, resolution A. James?
All right. Check totals come out to $2,849,976.66. There are really just two payments that are kind of driving that dollar figure up. There's a $2 million payment to the region for mental health, and then the other one was a $700,000 payment from the secondary roads to fund the farm to market account for the Cedar Wapsie paving project. So,
Motion to approve?
second.
Okay, is there any questions or comments on the resolution? Roll call, please.
Leyland.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Velka.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Little.
Yes. Item 5 is a presentation, the master plan proposed improvements to the Cedar River, Blackhawk Creek, presented by Cody, is it Leisman?
It is.
Leisman from Intercog.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you. I'm really hoping that we can get the TV up.
There we go.
Cool. All right. I was a little worried there for a moment. So, Intercog has been under contract with the Iowa DNR to develop the Water Trails Master Plan. And really, the ultimate goal is to designate the Cedar River and the Blackhawk Creek in Blackhawk County as a state designated water trail. There are several state water trails throughout Iowa right now. The Iowa DNR then puts out materials and other resources are available, as well as grant funding is more competitive for state designated water trails. So I'll try to be brief. There's a lot to cover. This is over 10 years in the making. But most recently, over the last few years, we've been finalizing the document itself. So quick overview of the presentation. I'll talk just briefly about the background of water trails in general. I'll explain how this master plan aligns the Blackhawk County Conservation Board's maintenance operations with the other government entities in the county, which there are several. I'll go over some improvements recommended in the master plan. That includes 7 areas managed by the county, and then next steps. So on your screen on the left is a map of the county and of the project scope. So it extends from the city of Janesville's river access down to McFarland Park along the Cedar River, and then from Hudson's Frank Park to the confluence of the Cedar River on Black Hawk Creek. It's 41 miles on the Cedar and 14 miles of Black Hawk Creek. And as you can see, almost a dozen different jurisdictions are involved depending on how you count it. We've worked not only with the Conservation Board, but also the Black Hawk County Engineer's Office when it comes to signage. And you'd mentioned the Cedar Wapsie project. That also affects one of the accesses, as well as the DNR and the DOT. I won't go into details, but a significant part of the master plan involves a review of the existing conditions, and there are several aspects of the rivers to review, everything from plant and animal species, emergency response, historical and cultural amenities. How does private land ownership tie into all of this? What are the tributaries, water quality issues? All of this is in the plan document, which is online, and I'll show that at the end. But if you want to learn more about these kinds of issues, it's in the plan, chapter 2, in tremendous detail. Last year, end of summer, so a little over a year ago, we had 2 public input meetings, one in Cedar Falls, one in Waterloo, and we also had an online survey that people were able to take as well who were aware of the project, and we got 92 survey responses. At each meeting, we had participants who came in, they put a push pin, or they put 5 push pins on a map, and it was an exercise basically to show if you had, say, $50,000, where would you invest that geographically in the county? And then they could put the pins where they would invest those dollars. And then there's also a drawing activity where they drew their favorite routes that they like to use, whether it's paddling, power boating, even fishing, and also a survey form. And so we compiled all that. All of this is also in the master plan. I won't go into too much detail either, other than it's chapter 3 if you want to learn more. One of the maps we were able to generate was from the push pin activity. So I took all the pins, I plugged them into GIS, and the result is what you're looking at. Of course, the sample might be a little skewed because the meetings were at the Waterloo Boathouse and the Cedar Falls Island Park Beach House, so naturally there's a lot of interest in those areas, but I think we do find that this does support what people are seeing and what the County Conservation Board is seeing as well, and a lot of usage along Black Hawk Creek as well. So users, what is this plan for? Who are we talking about? Is it just the canoers and kayakers? Really, the whole thing from the beginning was written with all users in mind. This includes non-motorized, it includes motorized, it includes people who might not even enter the river but might just be going to a park that has a connection to the river. Even bicyclists, there's actually an activity called pedal paddle where you, instead of having 2 vehicles, you bring 1 vehicle to your access, and then you can drop your bikes off there, drive upstream, canoe downriver, kayak downriver, leave your boats there, and then bicycle back up the river. And so I'll show a couple of examples of how that comes into play here as well. One of the major recommendations of the master plan is the designation of a gateway route. So the DNR classifies 4 different classes of rivers, and gateway is sort of your biggest attraction, what you'd bring your whole family to. The other classifications are recreational, which is sort of your standard Iowa River experience. There's challenge, which means that there are challenges. There may be obstacles, such as fallen trees and so forth. And then wilderness, which is some of your most remote stretches of river. But the gateway route that is proposed in the master plan is from downtown Cedar Falls to downtown Waterloo. There is, in fact, if not all, the vast majority of the lands surrounding that stretch of river are publicly owned. And so it really works out nicely. for the area, and it works out well for the downtown businesses too. In my conversations with both cities and the county, they liked this idea, and so this is sort of where we would encourage people who are unfamiliar with the area, if they aren't super comfortable kayaking or canoeing, that this would be their gateway, their introductory experience to the water trails. So now I'm just going to go slide by slide over the 7 accesses that the county manages. There are about 24 in the whole county, and then the George Wythe area, depending on how you count those as well. But I'll try to go through these really quick. You'll see a lot of similarities. That's intentional. These designs are meant to be consistent, and they're meant to provide a consistent user experience. So whether you're putting it in the county, City of Cedar Falls, or City of Waterloo, you have much of a very similar expectation, particularly with vehicles with boat trailers. And so much of the recommendations are sort of based on the assumption that the parking lot will be reconstructed at some point, and here are some improvements that each jurisdiction might consider when they're rebuilding those. And like I said, they're consistent across several jurisdictions. So at Washington Union, there's, as you are well aware, the new Cedar-Wapsie Road Bridge underway. I'm not sure when they're gonna, if they've started on that yet. It's already November, but and so the parking lot, as a result, to the river access is set to be expanded as well. As a result, the new bridge alignment will be further to the south of the existing bridge, which will allow for a less steep, a more gradual driveway. We had some public comments about the driveway itself, and so it's really good that that's already going to be addressed with the engineering department's ongoing efforts. Future enhancements, so once that's all done, other things that could be considered is taking the newly expanded parking lot and further defining it and reshaping the parking area to include 2 islands, or 2 grassy parking islands. And that's, I don't know if my mouse is going to show up on the screen. Okay, it does. That's these here, and pretty much all of the recommendations have these, and it's for circulation. So if you come in with your boat and your trailer, you just come in and you'd be able to easily back in to the ramp at an angle and then bring your trailer around and park. And then when you want to pick up your boat, you can do the same thing and then bring it back and be on your way. So the whole thing is meant to define the parking spaces so people aren't getting boxed in, and it's also meant to improve flow for vehicles with trailers, especially when it gets a little busier. Other improvements, native and pollinator plantings, staging areas. There's a staging area for paddlers here if you just want to drop off your kayak and park your vehicle near the boat ramp. There's a tie-down lane for boats with trailers. Give them a minute to tie down and sort of be out of the way for that. And so that's what I mean by staging areas. And then wooden bollards to define the parking lot further and to prevent further wear onto the ground cover. So vehicles are only wearing out the parking area, not the surrounding grass. Much of this will be consistent throughout, so I'm going to go a bit faster now. Black Hawk Park, pretty similar. The recommendations include expanding and reshaping the parking area, the native and pollinator plantings, staging areas. There's a tie-down lane here, staging area here for paddlers. You have spaces for vehicles with trailers and then spaces for vehicles without. In this case, some trees would need to be removed, but some new trees would be planted just to allow for the bigger parking lot. Sherwood Park. This is actually a relatively new ramp. It's not within the city's Sherwood Park, but just shortly down the road from it. There's currently 2 parking areas, and the recommendation here that our landscape architect came up with was actually to combine those into a single parking area. It would require some tree removal to do that, but otherwise it opens it up for upward of 7 vehicles with trailers, as well as 2 tie-down areas. And then, though we don't recommend it in the master plan, there were multiple public comments on installing a dock. Now, with it being in the river, there's inherent challenges with that. And so that's up to the county and perhaps the city to determine if that's appropriate. Gilbertville Park in the city of Gilbertville. This is possibly the most expanded of the parking lots in our recommendations. Right now, the existing lot is only about half the size as shown in this picture. There's plenty of room to expand that, and so that's what's shown. All these are gravel, by the way, so it'd be reconstructed as new subbase, the whole works, but still granular. And actually reinstalling this boat ramp, but then adding a new paddler's ramp to the north to separate out paddler traffic from the motorized vehicles there. And now you're sort of getting downstream, so there might actually be people who do that pedal paddle thing I was describing, so maybe installation of a bike rack as well. Cedar River Natural Resource Area, this is by Miller Creek. It's a smaller area, and it is very flood prone, and there is rutting that is pretty commonplace there. Again, similar idea, expand and reshape the parking area, add those staging areas, add the bollards, and in this case, several trees would need to be removed, but 2 new shade trees could be planted. The removal just to allow for parking. So as you could see from that previous picture, there's not necessarily a clear way to park, nor is it all that large. So this accounts for that. Cedar River access, which is near the southernmost part of the water trail. Right now it's a standalone access. It's not tied to a park or anything, but same thing, reshape it, allow for that easy flow for vehicles with trailers. Install the boat ramp at an angle to prevent from scouring and damage to the boat ramp. Native pollinator plantings, staging areas, wooden bollards, and actually no trees would be removed for this one. 3 new shade trees could be planted. And then lastly, McFarlane Park. Similar parking islands, native and pollinator plantings, staging areas. Several trees would need to be removed for this. What's unique about this site is that the water level, it depends on what the water level is. If the water level is too low, a lot of the boaters will go across the river to that Cedar River access instead. So one possibility, and it's only recommended as a possibility, is the installation of a J-hook or a straight vane structure, which then would sort of create more of a pool here, and to my understanding, would sort of prevent erosion along that shoreline then, because the water would flow past that boat ramp. So next steps, I'm meeting with you today. I've already worked on signage plans for each of those accesses, so that includes the water trail signage. It might include some other signs as well, and then these signs that you see at the access itself. For dams, there's also warning signs planned, and we are even looking at bridge signage. That's something that the other water trails are doing. So when you're paddling under a bridge, it would say how long it is to the next access. After this, I'll be working with the staffs, and I should have prefaced at the beginning that all these recommendations were developed with staff, County Conservation Board staff, and I also met with the cities of Waterloo and Gilbertville for those parks, because they're managed by both jurisdictions. And so I'll be meeting with the staffs to approve to develop and approve. We'll work with the staffs to develop the sponsor agreements. We'll come back to you to approve the sponsor agreements. And then next year in 2020, hold a state designation event. That's when folks from the DNR will come up. There's some sort of fun ideas of how to make it interactive, possibly having a float down the river to designate it as a state water trail. If you want to find out more, you can go to cedarvalleywatertrails.com. You can visit it on your computer. It actually loads very well, even better on mobile devices. So if that's what you're into. And then there's a lot of tabs, a lot of different information on the website. There's a map if you are just a paddler yourself, meeting materials that describe the public input process. The master plan is a drop-down menu, and you can see all the different components of the master plan. I'm still uploading the recommendations for some of the other cities, but I do have all of Black Hawk counties up there in draft form. This is for you to review, and if you see anything that you think it needs to be changed, or just any recommendations or comments, you can send them to me, and I will incorporate those before we finalize and publish the master plan document. But it's just great to have a website for all of this as a hub for the area. And then if it expands up to, say, Waverly, for example, we can incorporate that into the website as well. The sponsorship agreements are sort of one of the major takeaways for this group, and that identifies the maintenance responsibilities between each city, the county, and the Iowa DNR. It's part of becoming a state designated water trail. They want to make sure that if they're encouraging people to come to Waterloo, come to Cedar Falls, come to Black Hawk County, and paddle the rivers, that we're holding them to a certain standard. We're not letting trash build up and so forth. And so they just want to know who's responsible and at what intervals each jurisdiction would work on removing sediment after high water events, mowing and trash removal, maintaining restrooms if there are any, and then signage. If a sign is vandalized or if it's broken or if the wind takes it, who reports that. The DNR pays for all the signs, so that is not an expense to the county or any of the cities, but it would be on each jurisdiction to install their own signs.
Cody, have you talked to staff then as far as regarding the sponsor agreements? As far as responsibility and what they typically would do or what they're willing to do? Or?
Yep. That was actually much of when we were developing the recommendations, that was much of the discussion, but they are aware that that is one of the next steps, and so we're really going to start, that'll be the next phase of this before the state designation is really having those discussions and determining that. So it's not, that part isn't written yet, it's to be determined, but it's much of what the staff is already doing. And that's what I found in talking with the other jurisdictions too. Like, talk to Cedar Falls, they say, yeah, as soon as it floods, we go out there and we get the sand out of there, and we empty the trash every 2 weeks, and they just want it in writing so then they know that everything is on the up and up. So that is all of my presentation. If you have any questions, I can take them now.
Any talk of any dredging?
Dredging, as far as the master plan goes, is not recommended, and so
Not recommended?
correct,
Okay.
just due to the environmental implications of doing so and the expense mainly, but it's not central to the planning document either. It's really focused on those access areas.
Later this month, there'll be both meetings for the Cedar River Coalition, which includes soil and water groups all up and down the Cedar River, as well as a meeting of the Middle Cedar River Watershed Management Authority. I think both groups might be interested in this information. If you want to connect with me, I can connect you with the schedule makers to get on those agendas.
I could definitely do that, and we have been involved with people who serve jointly on both of those. I even took a trip out to Vinton for one of their Middle Cedar River meetings to have sort of an information exchange. So, but yeah, that'd be great if you could send that information to me.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 6, receiving project updates from department heads and/or elected officials. Morning, Kathy.
Good morning, Board. Kathy Nicholas, County Engineer. A few things I wanted to mention this morning. Our motor grader operators are making probably their final round for this afternoon. They should be out making some final rounds unless we get a significant change in the weather, but we do expect more colder temperatures. The roads are freezing and firming up now. I wanted to remind you again, we have a public meeting that will be Tuesday, November 19th at the Dunkerton City Library at 6 p.m., so 2 weeks from this evening, and this will be to discuss the fate of the East Bennington Road Bridge that has been permanently closed for about 2 years now. we'll talk with the residents and get some input from them.
Do you get a lot of calls on that, Kathy, now?
Actually, we haven't heard anything in over a year on that structure,
Okay, thank you.
that area. And I also wanted to respond back to you about a request you had last week about the mowing requirements in our county ditches. So when looking at, in the Iowa Code, looking on our website, we do have information on our website. But there's really only two requirements that the public needs to abide by. And Iowa Code 314.17 prohibits the mowing of roadside vegetation or ditches in our rights of way prior to July 15th. And exceptions to this would be if you're near the city limits or if there's poor visibility. For example, we go out and mow, we're mowing our intersections by then. And the gravel roads, we've started mowing by then as well as the paved roads. Or if there's specific reasons that vegetation needs to be managed. So all those are excluded from the mowing for July 15th. And then the only other code language referring to mowing would be Iowa Code 318.3, which prohibits the cultivation or growing of crops within the highway right-of-way. And again, that's for purposes of maintaining our ditches and providing adequate visibility for traveling citizens. Is there anything further you would like me to look into in that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else? Okay, seeing them, we'll move on to item 7, minutes approved for October the 29th and October the 31st, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8 is consent agenda that'll be made with a single resolution.
Second.
Is there any questions on the consent agenda? Roll call, please.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Trelka.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes.
Little.
Yes. Item 9, other business. Resolution and request for purchase capital equipment submitted by Kim Beater, IT Director, be approved. Direct chair signed for purchase of firewall for $295 per month for the remaining duration of the current contract from ACES to be used courthouse. Kim.
Kim Veer, IT Director. Currently, our contract with ACES is a replacement machine within a couple hours. A couple weeks ago, we had some major issues and some problems getting that back up again. And it pointed out there are offices, when we made that decision years ago about that would be our disaster plan, is to depend on a replacement provided to the county. And in the meantime, things have changed around with IT. The recorder's office is an online application. If they can't get to the internet, they can't do their business. Same thing with the election office. Just in general, internet activity has, increased over the years. So based on that, I'm suggesting that we have a high availability, another machine here on site that, would take a limited time to switch over so that we wouldn't have as much downtime if there was a problem.
So this is secondary,
Yes, this is management, a second machine.
and the primary, is that through ACES too?
Yes.
What's that cost a month?
It's included in our contract. So yeah, and they're suggesting that we upgrade the machine as well. So we'll get 2 brand new firewalls for here at the courthouse when this is, well, we're going to get a new one, period, but this will be replaced with 2 new ones. Or newer models, I should say.
And so the one's actually not a new contract, but like a monthly contract for this second.
Right,
one,
yep.
In addition to, okay.
Right. It's the management of it actually is what it is.
But it'll always be there. I mean, it's with the contract, right?
Right. Well, this would be in addition to the contract, yes.
So will this be part of the contract the next time?
Probably, yeah. If that's what ends up happening. I mean,
So the contract cost goes up, it's just part of it.
yes. Well, when we get to May and we were reviewing that or whatever time frame that is, I'm sure it'll be wrapped into that management.
Same contract.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments on this subject? Roll call, please.
Trelka,
Yes.
White,
No.
Leyland,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Little.
No. Moving on to item B is a motion that the appointment of Jerry Hagman as a representative for the recorder on the Blackhawk County Compensation Board be approved effective November the 5th, 2019, term ending June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Sandy, this is your appointment.
Good morning, Board. Sandy Smith, Recorder.
Morning.
I just wanted to take a moment to thank Mr. Steve Abbott, who was my previous representative. For many years, he has represented recorders, so I would very much like to thank him. He strongly recommended Jerry. Steve just decided to retire or resign from that position this year, so wanted to thank him.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C is a motion that the personnel rec for maintenance mechanic, full-time replacement and building maintenance office effective January 1st, 2020 be approved.
So moved.
This is
Second.
going to be a backfill for a retirement. Is there any other questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D is a resolution that the Board of Supervisors authorize and direct county auditor and make transfers within the various FY20 operating funds sent out as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
James, anything on this?
No.
Grant, I should say.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's,
Grant, James Grant?
no, I don't have anything on this.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, roll call, please.
White,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Trelka,
Yes.
Little.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item E, this is a resolution to direct the advertisement for the sale of $9,090,000, subject to the terms offering Geo Bond Series 2019 approved electronic bidding procedures and official statement.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, James, anything on this one?
Yes, this is going to be really just the next step in the bond process. In this resolution, you're going to be approving three things: the advertisement for the sale of the bonds. You have to approve the electronic bidding, and then you have to approve the official statement that was sent out from Spear Financial. So,
Okay. Board, any questions on that? Okay, roll call, please.
Leyland,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Trelka,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Little.
Yes. Item 10, any reports or information from the board at this time?
Just send our condolences down to Dana downstairs in the cafeteria. He lost his mother yesterday. She passed away at New Maldea yesterday morning.
Okay, Chris?
Just to report that the Middle Cedar River has another meeting coming up on the 21st, I believe it is, of this month, and we're really hoping that the elected officials that serve from some of the smaller cities around here attend that meeting, because we've got the plan in place, but we need the quorum to approve it, and so I hope that they take their roles seriously.
Send something out.
Yep, we are. We're sending them all letters and saying if you, basically all the folks that haven't attended, that have been blocking us from reaching quorum, we're kind of sending a notice that they need to appoint somebody else.
Or else.
Yeah.
Is that going to be at Hartman?
Yes.
I was gonna say, I thought this was coming up.
Anything else?
Do you have a Dana send that out?
No, we're having, coming out from the watershed
Oh.
group.
So I sent one, I had
Just
Dana
wanna-
send one out for us, and it really worked well. We
All
had
right.
13 legislators.
I might do both of those then.
Yeah.
I just want to remind people to vote.
There you go, Linda.
Sure. Just want to mention to the board, and I think you all received yesterday the email copy, the UCC, Urban County Coalition, had started their phone calls last week, the weekly phone calls, and had the first draft of the legislative priorities. And if everyone would take an opportunity to look at those and see if it meets with your satisfaction or approval, and or if there's suggestions for, you know, something you'd like removed or added to it, over the next couple of weeks, want to try to finalize that list. I think one of the primary things that we thought was addressing the mental health funding and making sure if there's we want the state as a partner in this from the funding standpoint, but to make sure that there's a protection from the county standpoint, so that we don't a couple years later find that they renege on a plan for paying
Okay.
for that.
Very good.
That meeting last week, it split right down party lines on whether they'll support it or not, so
At your,
it's horrible.
well, not the Urban County Coalition, you mean at your regional meeting?
Yeah, the regional.
Okay, then, anything else? Then I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.